A lot of people struggle with migraines, particularly women, much more prevalent in women. In this video, let's talk about some natural things you can do to prevent and in some cases even treat a migraine. I've known a number of people who've used these methods with success. So in this video, what we'll cover, understanding some of the links that are probably triggering your migraines that you might be overlooking. We'll also talk about some of those natural tools I was mentioning to prevent, even reverse those migraines. And also it's nice because migraines aren't necessarily caused by just one thing. There can kind of be a multifactorial, things going on, a number of different things. So we'll talk about each of those. As I've mentioned before, if you want other options outside of drugs and surgery, make sure to go to my website. There's a free checklist there. Make sure to grab that. So let's just start. What's actually causing migraines? Well, there can be a number of different things. First of all, if you're estrogen dominant, and a lot of people struggle with hormone issues, migraines have been linked to higher estrogen status. So we'll talk about some ways to address that, particularly prevalent in people with poor thyroid function, hypothyroid. Also some links with cholesterol levels and depression. So we'll talk about that. Blood sugar swings. If you have metabolic issues, you tend to see this in people who are metabolically unstable. They can have migraines and just overall stress. Obviously, we want to control the stress factors that we can. Others sometimes are out of our control, but we do want to lessen those as much as we can. Okay, so let's talk about some of these things, these natural solutions to prevent or even reverse migraines right now. So again, one of the things that you'll see in a drug like Imitrex or some of these migraine meds is they're actually going to constrict the blood vessels. Caffeine can actually do the same thing. So people will, kind of poo-poo the idea, you shouldn't drink coffee, you shouldn't do this. Coffee can actually be helpful for people with migraines, okay? Because it's actually, the caffeine is going to constrict those blood vessels. Another thing that I see in people with migraines is they have gut issues. Now, what happens when you have gut issues is you can get a very high load of what's called endotoxin. Now, endotoxin is a normal thing that occurs in your gut. However, when you start to get quote unquote, kind of that leaky gut, things are going through the gut lining, we can start running into problems. A couple of things, simple things you can do to start lessening this over time is things like a bit of activated charcoal. If that's not something you're comfortable with, I would consume a raw carrot each day. The fibers in the carrot can help lower that endotoxin load over time. And then we, kind of touching on what I mentioned earlier with the high estrogen levels, we want to obviously try to balance out. This does not make estrogen bad, you guys, okay? We just have to keep it in balance. So again, we have that raw carrot coming in. The fibers can also help with that. Supplementing with something like progesterone. I'm not saying this should be your first step. You obviously want to get your hormones tested before, don't just think you have excess estrogen. You do want to get tested. I have a link to a lab place that I personally use in the description, so you can go there. But if that is happening, you may want to talk to your doctor about supplementing with natural progesterone. Something like a topical progesterone can be a good option, because as progesterone goes up, you see estrogen come down. Aspirin, just taking an aspirin every day or every other day can be helpful to lower estrogen. And another thing I see is that a lot of women in particular, they're taking things like oral contraceptive tablets, which have high amounts of estrogen, which can trigger and increase the prevalence of those migraines. So something you want to think about there. Another option is to increase carbon dioxide. You remember when I said earlier, a lot of people who have migraines tend to have metabolism issues. Carbon dioxide, when you have high levels of carbon dioxide, it's a sign basically burning, you have a good metabolism, high oxygen levels, high carbon dioxide levels. It's a sign of a strong metabolism. So things you can do are bicarbonates, like sodium bicarbonate, which is baking soda, or magnesium bicarbonate in a magnesium bicarbonate bath. Even something like a few minutes of paper bag breathing, just breathing in and out of the paper bag, can actually raise your carbon dioxide levels. Okay. So this is a big one. So many people are on medications nowadays that artificially increase their serotonin levels in their body. Serotonin, that's not a good thing. for migraines. So some things you can do, again, we're coming back to aspirin. And obviously, if you're on an antidepressant that increases serotonin levels, that's something you want to talk to your doctor about because the serotonin can be a trigger for migraines. Let's talk about stress. Okay. There's a number of different ways that stress can contribute to migraines, but anything that's a stressor in your life, it could be not just work and life, it could be things like the extreme diets. Okay. Are you on keto, carnivore, vegetarian, vegan, those sorts of things? You're eventually going to run into issues with those. I have a lot of videos on this and talk a lot about it on my email list. So again, go to my website if that's of interest to you, but you want to stay away from extreme diets, stay away from fasting. Basically fasting is like kind of a forced starvation. And you're talking, you got somebody here who did this stuff for 17, 18 years, and I eventually paid the price for it. So yeah, fasting on occasion, I usually don't have an issue with that, but doing it every day, you're going to introduce problems. Eventually I'll have a video coming out about my experience with that. Caloric restriction, the same thing. Bottom line, you want to fuel your body, eat in a way that gives your body the nutrients it needs to have a strong metabolism, not cut back all the time. It's a form of stress. It's going to lead to problems. Same as work life, same as a lack of sleep. Okay. Blood sugar swings can also contribute to migraines because it's a stressor on your body. When your blood sugar drops too low, it's going to have to increase stress hormones to produce sugar in your body in a way that's not coming from food. So it has to break down muscle tissue and fat to make that sugar. Okay. That is a stressor on your body. Okay. Increase calcium intake. I would do this naturally. I wouldn't get carried away with supplements, but if you can get something like raw dairy, get more calcium, cheeses, those sorts of things. I have had people report that increasing their calcium intake has helped from the migraine front. Now, all these things that I've talked about, they can be used for prevention and or reversal in some cases. Like I said, something like, just some of those immediate things like a caffeine can potentially help with the migraine right away. But, having a cup of coffee each day can help with that prevention as well. So some of these are interchangeable. Some of them are more long-term plays, but the bottom line is migraines have increased in prevalence, and it has a lot to do with foods we're putting in our body, our foreign metabolisms. So if we can address that, and these are things that can address that, we can start getting more control of your migraines. Okay. So hope this was helpful. You guys, any questions, let me know. Any other video topics you want to see, drop it in the comments. This is a prime example. This was a question from a viewer and a reader. So yeah, let me know in the comments. Hope this video was helpful, you guys. I will see you in the next one. Thanks.